The business landscape has been changing rapidly. Marketing, sales, fulfillment, support, it's all a very different animal these days. And being connected to your customers means that you have to fully embrace online platforms and social media. Today, we're talking about this brave new world, so stay tuned. We have with us Dr. Antonis Papatsaras, CTO of Hootsuite. Hootsuite started in 2008 and is the world's first social media management platform. With hundreds of thousands of customers and more than 6,000 enterprise customers, Hootsuite is a social media juggernaut. Hootsuite has become a significantly more capable tool over the years, and following the acquisition of Talkwalker, the leading AI-powered social listening solution, they have sparked a transformative shift from social media management to social media performance. So let's talk with Antonis about how social media performance is key to elevating all aspects of your business. Welcome, Antonis.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
I'm excited to talk to you. I've been watching Hootsuite for many years, and it's interesting to see how I think when you guys started out very long ago, actually, in internet terms, it's an extraordinarily long time, I guess, 2008, right? But your paths, the industry and your market position have been converging rapidly, and I think we're kind of at peak convergence right now. But if you could, on that point, could you talk a little bit about why that convergence is happening and what you're seeing and how the business landscape is changing?
Yeah, of course. We are definitely the grandfather of the social media management space. Chris, we started in 2008 when nobody was really ready to adopt our technology and think about, what was the impact of social media into what you do every day outside of the fear of missing out because your competitor had it. So back then, we started by helping our customers to connect the different social media tools into one place. Think of TweetDeck or something like this, right, where you can post once and then send it everywhere, and then watch the streams of the results and the engagements that would happen afterwards. Today, call it, so many years later, 2024 is about aligning the actions you take in the social media space to impact that those actions have to your business. So our customers are starting to realize that we need to move away from just managing social media is just a democratized task these days, and really trying to get the value out of what is out there, how do you interpret it, how do you action it, and how does this drive KPIs for the business?
The traditional business model has changed a lot. I mean, the old model of, the sales guy going out there and pounding the pavement and having the lunches and, the golf outings and things like that. It's just not like that anymore. And all those trade shows, it's like we don't have all those trade shows anymore. So, marketing struggling to reach the right customer base, the salespeople are really struggling to generate pipeline. But what I feel like it all comes down to is, being heard. And it's central to that is really all these communication vehicles, which are the social media pieces. And I feel like it has never been more important now than ever before to really, get in front of your audience and find ways to optimize how you're getting in front of your audience. And I think that's where, when you're talking about the media management piece of it, I think that's a really important piece. Can you speak to the importance of how that all plays out and how content plays into, this bigger thing, and, producing that content is really so key now?
Yeah, for sure. So 95% of our businesses are using social media today. But they're using social media.
Who are the 5% that aren't?
Exactly. There's another statistic for you. 5 billion people in the world are using social media today for at least 2.5 hours of their day. So it's incredible. This space is growing like waves. It's exponential. But going back into your question, our customers are using social media for the majority of the customers that join us use social media without actually knowing how to write the right content, how to reach their audiences, and what will have bigger impact. What action will have bigger impact. So if you go back into content generation, for instance, the moment that somebody has to address their audience, they get a mental block. They get a blank screen with no text, and they just don't know what to post. It doesn't matter if you're an insurance company or a little corner coffee shop. You still have to engage your
Yeah.
audience. So content is really important. So Hootsuite comes in, and Hootsuite provides the tools necessary for you to craft the right content, the right time, schedule it to publish it when it has the most impact for your customers, learn from the
Hmm.
experience, use the results of the engagement and the interactions with that content to kind of bring it back and draft the second one and so on. So content becomes really, really important because content is
Yeah.
engaging. And then building a relationship between the pieces of text that you ship out there to the social media networks with your audience on the other side. It's what brings really the customer, the sense of a relationship back into Hootsuite, your brand, and in term, the repeat business and the trust that your business really requires and needs.
This is really a whole company effort. It's not just sales and marketing, or just marketing even. Um, because people get on to complain about, customer service, or they get on to, like make reviews, or they're doing that, and like being aware of what's happening on there for all aspects of the business, from support to sales to, everything. It's really, and fulfillment is another big one too, right? So like having that line of sight to your customers in that way, I think is really critical, but it's super hard to do, right? If you don't have a vision of the whole playing field, right?
You're absolutely right. The old era where you would have a social media manager just caring about your social media presence is gone. If
Yeah.
you think about your business as a whole, you can start from sales, like lead generation, attribution to revenue, and all that stuff. We can help with. If you go to customer success and support, how do you increase your CSAT score? How do you create a customer base that loves coming back for more? And of course, come
Right.
back for more often for businesses means you can upsell into that audience more. You've got to make sure that you are at the time of now, you're responding to this customer needs. If you look at your marketing, the traditional marketing outreach that as a company you do now, that outreach is connecting to sales and it's connecting to customer success and support as well. And if you think about your whole kind of employee base, like you're a big company and you're recruiting, you want to show a picture there to the world that you are the best place to work. How can you use advocacy and social media to push your message out, but also
Yeah.
to attract this new generation of employees who are looking in social media to figure out whether the company they're about to join is the right one? And if you look from the human capital manager's perspective, same story there. So what we do is we are building relationships, not just within your organization, but within your organization and your customer or following base. And we do this
Mhm.
by thinking about the 360 view of your social footprint within your organization. So we're now connecting the CRO and the CMO and the CCO, the Chief Customer Officer, together, even with the person's leader, the people leader in the organization, to actually think about social holistically.
Organizations I talk to are always talking about, like, we got to build pipeline, got to build pipeline, got to build pipeline, right? And obviously social media is just absolutely central to that. But so much of the sales motion these days just begins and ends on Google, YouTube, TikTok, all these social media platforms. And when you look, Google's, the biggest search engine on the planet, but then you got YouTube, which is number two, and TikTok might have overtaken it, but you probably know better than I on that. But, but you look at these, like, and that's where people are going to find information. That's where they're starting, So if you're not getting your message out there to those people when they're looking at that time and they're asking those kinds of questions and they have a need and you can fulfill it. If you're not getting in front of them, that's a real missed opportunity, right? And so like that full 360 thing that you've got going really can help you refine that, it sounds like.
Absolutely. If you think about where we were with Google over the past 20 years or so, social media is becoming the new Google search, quite frankly. If you
Yeah.
think from, especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they're spending most of their time there. They look for their brands there. They follow brands, and they're more inclined to buy from the brands they follow than anywhere else. If you
Yeah.
look at relationships. If I was to put on Instagram a post about something that my new motorcycle and how cool it is, it is much more likely, 2 to 3 times more likely, somebody who is following me to go and buy the same brand because now I'm recommending it. So you
Yeah.
can start thinking that from the search perspective, and how do you make those searches impactful to your business, therefore to bring revenue back into what you do. Engaging through social media, your customer, your potential customer, your follower becomes paramount.
On the whole, like performance management piece, there's this idea of, social listening. Could you talk a little bit to, like what do you guys do to, like put all that information in front of someone in an actionable way?
Yeah, that's a good question. So just for your audience here, back about 6 months ago, we bought, as you mentioned, TalkWalker. TalkWalker is a listening solution, and listening is really all about taking as many sources in as you can, apply AI models, and slice and dice the data in a way that you bring out insights. We
Hmm.
were Hootsuite up to that time, with 14 other acquisitions that we made over the period of time of so many years, and we ended up now bringing the action part, which was Hootsuite, and the insight part together. So insights that came through TalkWalker became actionable through Hootsuite, and with that, we created impact and value for the business. So if you think about listening, listening is really the capability of looking at reviews, looking at what's happening on all social media networks at real time, slicing and dicing from demographic to age to wherever you want the data to bring the right insights in front of your audience. So if you are United.com or Coca-Cola or somebody else, you can now start looking at trends. You can start looking at sentiment, how your followers are looking at you. You can start looking at your competitor. So how am I
Hmm.
doing as brand X against brand Y, which is a
Right.
direct competitor to ours? So all of that, it helps us build what we now call at Hootsuite a performance engine. So we're moving away from social media management to really performance management.
Yeah, and I got to mention those kinds of connections are not easy to identify either. Like I mean, because in my own work here, I noticed that there's like just very kind of counterintuitive sometimes connections that you make, and you're like, oh, that's what they want, or that's what they need, that's what they're looking for. And like, and you think you're going down this direction, and then you look at some of the data and you're like, whoa, I was way off base. And I think that's the thing that it's hard. It's a very hard task, actually.
It's a hard problem.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's got to be nice to have something to
It's a
help
hard
with that.
problem, and I would argue that the majority of my backend team is just daily working on trying to figure out algorithms and ways of slicing and dicing the data, and validating that the insights are the correct ones for your business. And trying to do this at near real time is definitely elevate the level of hardness that the task requires you to. But that's what our customers want. That's what the business is really pushing us for, and we are so excited to be in the crossroads of this new time of movement, a wave, if you wish, of actually using social media for something that actually drives growth.
Well, and I think the other thing to add into that mix is that social media changes so incredibly fast. I mean, not only just like from day to day, like what's happening, what's popular, because I think one of the things that companies don't realize, and that 5% that's not on social media obviously doesn't realize, is that you can be out and marketing something and saying something, and something completely unrelated to what you're doing can happen in the social media space, and all of a sudden what you're doing is deeply offensive to a lot of people and you didn't realize it because you're not paying attention to it. And so like having that kind of timely insight is super critical so that you're not being insensitive to certain things, and you're staying up to the trends.
You're absolutely right. A lot of our customers are using listening, and they are in essence set rules in order to actually get on top of this problem. The problem of misinformation, the problem of you're going after a certain thing, but the world is going somewhere else.
Right.
The problem of looking at trends today and responding with your, tweets or with your posts out there to those trends to actually grab the attention of your followers. So listening is really, really important for this, and the ability to actually create the rules, to create, these notifications that come to you automatically when something occurs in your space becomes critical for our customers.
Yeah, and I think just it's almost like a PR crisis, proactive PR crisis management.
You're absolutely right. You just took this out of my mouth. I was going to say that some of the customers we have in some government agencies that I cannot share with you their names, they absolutely use this technology for crisis management to see what is brewing and reacting to it before it becomes a problem.
It really is like an hour by hour cycle in some cases, but a company that waits 24 hours could have lost the battle already. That's why it's so like so scary for people, with companies with, really strong brand presences and are really out there trying to, reach an audience. It's, it's shifting sands, and it's not only that too. It's like there's new social media platforms every day too. I mean, things are coming and going, and this is popular today, this is not popular today. And now this social media platform has changed their algorithm or their community guidelines, and now everything's different. So like that level of change and adaptation, you need a whole team. And I gotta imagine it's nice to sort of outsource it to somebody like Hootsuite that can kind of keep on top of that.
Certainly, it is really, really hard. You said it. The market is changing so fast that it's really, really hard for organizations to follow what's happening. It is also very easy for organizations to go and post the wrong message out there in the midst of, the crisis or the chaos, and be perceived in the wrong way.
Yeah.
So having the ability to do a little bit of crisis management, having the ability to see the sentiment, the trends that are going around your brand right now, the outcome of a post that you just shipped out there really quick at real time become paramount so that you can correct that image if necessary and move on.
One of the things that you talk about is sort of the whole business aspect of this, and like we talked about customer sat issues and things like that, and just fulfillment issues and things like that, and being on top of those before they blow up into some incredibly viral TikTok, that's dragging your brand through the mud. Could you speak to how that workflow happens? Like how because it's not just now you're integrating like your fulfillment people, and you're integrating your all these other people of the business who typically haven't been involved in the social media side of it. Like, can you speak to how that integration's going?
At the core, we have the advanced analytics capabilities to be able to draw insights at the global level. So imagine an organization that has a data science team, and we can now provide a data science team with the right information to create the reports necessary for the the ELT team, right, at the highest level to have everything they need in their fingertips. We can also create the reports necessary for that ELT team or other stakeholders to see just the view of what they care about, how the company is doing in social media management side of things. Now start thinking about how do you engage one level down.
Yeah.
One level down, for instance, we have an app in the Salesforce ecosystem that does work on the Service Cloud and provides our CSM customers, type of customers, the tools along the Service Cloud to bring into the workflow the customer satisfaction element by reaching out to their customers and taking in requests coming from social media. Imagine you're United.com and your flight is delayed and nobody's going to call United.com phone number, customer success line, but everybody's going to get onto X and start posting. How do you manage that crisis? And
Right.
Service Cloud, in this case, is managed that way. Imagine now on the sales side, the same app will do lead generation and attribute conversations we had with potential buyers into actually revenue close at the end of the quarter, since our data will be merged with the Salesforce data in that space. What I'm trying to describe here is that the way we do it is by bringing Hootsuite data and insights into where work happens today.
Yeah.
And where work happens today isn't necessarily always happen inside hootsuite.com/login,
Right.
but it happens in Salesforce, it happens in Zendesk, it happens in Marketo, in HubSpot, in Workday, depending on the department you are and what you care about. And that's the attitude of where we're going next, if you wish, and what we're enabling also today. So we bring the organization together by bringing a customer 360 view from the social media perspective into what they already were dealing with, for instance, in Service Cloud, emails and voice calls.
Yeah.
And we complete that pie, if you wish, with a slice of social media so that they get a full picture. And then we can trace opportunities that maybe start in marketing, but they become, leads to a sales and become customers to a customer success, conversation that become an upsell opportunity.
So I mean that's really interesting. So like now you've got all these integrations into these other tools. It sounds like is that what you're saying? I mean, like you can integrate directly into like ServiceNow or any of these other kind of.
So there is today and there is future.
Okay.
So I blend today with future. So today predominantly we're working with integrations on some of top of the great tools, including Service Cloud and Salesforce and so on. Tomorrow we are moving towards a world where work is shifting to the tools that Gen Z and Alpha and millennials are using every day.
Yeah.
Which is part of our strategy. But yes,
that really brings a whole nother level to it because obviously integrating with the tools that they're already working with every day because they're not going to want to get into Hootsuite and like deal with all the social media content, but they do want to know like if something's going on, and like if you can pop up a ticket and say, hey, there's a customer sat issue and here's the customer, go find them.
Yeah, I can't imagine my son, my 19-year-old son, ever going into Hootsuite.com, for instance, to do his work. He will do his work at whatever medium he's using at that given moment, and I need to make sure that he has the insight necessary and the action button necessary to take that action and move on.
Yeah.
Same applies to you, Chris. You're using social media today, and the way that you'll be using social media tomorrow is going to be closer to the tools you use to do your production and your work, and therefore we need to be there.
The social media platforms are very stingy with data sometimes. I mean, sometimes they give you a ton of it, but but until you get to this point, you only get this much data. They sort of ration out the data, so it is a little tricky, or it's like you have to buy this special package or you have to subscribe to this. And, there's 100 different social media platforms and, like do that for all of them. So having that sort of external, link to that data where you can, view it outside of their, proprietary ways.
And this is what we do. And it's hard because we, even as vendors across the space, not just Hootsuite, we have to to strike a balance between the data we have and data we can get, and the actions we can drive out of those. But yes, imagine you as a single person or a small production team that now you have to go to 20, 30 different social media networks and trying to manage your work individually. We just take that stress away from you.
I'll testify to that problem because, like I'll put a short out on YouTube. I'll put the same short basically out as a TikTok, and then I'll, maybe put it up on LinkedIn. 300% different reactions, like in terms of viewership and who's viewing and, how many views and how quickly it ramps up. And it's just like, and, like without like a holistic view of all those platforms, it's like, it's hard to say, like, was it the content that missed? Was it just my posting time was off? Was it just, I just missed the boat on the people who are on the demographic of the people who are on that platform. It's just I literally have no idea sometimes why things do what they do.
That is exactly what's exciting. What's exciting is that you can have a picture of a social network to social network in your advanced analytics reporting capability that we offer, and you can draw your own conclusions on what happens with your reels on Instagram versus YouTube and TikTok and so on. But then the magic and the insights come when you start combining all together, and you're starting to realize that certain actions you can take can lift all three social media networks, and your impact on those app, and so on. So those trends and those insights that we give you, and the ability to kind of look at one screen and get a whole world view, helps our customers tremendously.
I have to admit, I do a lot of like, well, let's try it and see what happens,
Of course.
which can, be expensive, time consuming, problematic. And, like now I'm like, and I think that, people don't really, who aren't living in this space a lot, don't really understand things like, descriptions, thumbnails, how it's like, that's so important. You get so wrapped up in, like, I want to tell people this, that you don't think that like, they're not even going to get to that point if you don't have now YouTube's A being, thumbnails and things like that. And it's like, so you get all this data and it's just like, oh my God, I don't know what any of that means. And how does that relate across all my platforms here? It's a tough gig.
It is, and it's getting tougher by the moment, as you said, more social media networks are popping up. The rules are changing. Of course, content grows exponential. Look at all these AI bots creating content for you right now.
Yeah.
And so on. So I can imagine, for somebody like you, where you have a smaller team, you can take a lot more advantage of a tool like Hootsuite. For an organization who has tremendously large, that has so many touch points, hundreds of thousands of employees, partners galore, and so on, this problem becomes even more exponential.
We talked a little bit about, the fact that Hootsuite has some of these integrations and obviously a lot more coming, it sounds like. Can you talk, I mean, because you've also, you've got all these other tools that you can bring to bear on it. And as you say, you're kind of the performance management side of it rather than just, timing things to post on different platforms. You've gone way beyond that. But then you've also got this TalkWalker acquisition too, that gives you all these AI capabilities. Can you speak to a little bit about like what the tool does and, like what the extent of its capabilities are?
So, I mean, from the fundamental perspective, the tool allows you to walk in, connect 100, 200, as many social media networks you have, and a lot of organizations have multiple, Facebook accounts, multiple Instagram accounts, and so on. This is where you get hundreds of them, and do the very basics, which is compose a message. By knowing the trends, by knowing what's happening in your space, which often recommend text for you to do it, and schedule the post to go out at a time that is more impactful for your audience. We have capabilities like a unified inbox that can bring 15 different social media types, including conversations like WhatsApp and so on, into a single pane, where you can start collaborating with your audience in terms of DMs and messaging in one place. And in there, we can give you, we are about a month away from giving you sentiment in these conversations, and therefore the ability to know how whoever you're interacting with is having a great time or not interacting with you, and the experience he's having with you. Um,
Right.
Today, our inbox is used by very large organizations to do customer success support, like some airlines, for instance, where all these DMs that I described before come in one central space, and then it's farmed out with workflows to the right people to answer. We bring this functionality in about 1 month time into Salesforce too, which means that now we connect these conversations with the service cloud. And therefore, when you were taking calls before, when you were taking emails of customer support issues or whatever you wanted to deal with, now you also get those conversations blend in. You get a whole picture of Chris coming to you through a phone call or an email or a DM into your customer success support. We
Yeah.
have streams, which is like TweetDeck, the ability to monitor not just streams from one social media, but streams from as many social media um, um, uh, networks you with in one screen, so that you can actually see real-time conversations and reactions happen to what you're sending out. We have the ability to do advanced analytics, where you can build custom dashboards to look at competitive analysis, to look at data that coming from different social media networks and the reactions and engagement comments that you get and so on. We have advocacy, and then we have a lot of AI and automation in place to help our customers make the right decisions, always leaving the final say to the human, and help to get away from the mental block or actually surface the right data in front of you. For instance, we have AI bots that help you. If you are an airline and you have hundreds of thousands of conversations coming every month, you want to reduce the noise, and you want to take 60-70% of these conversations in a more automatic manner, answered, rather than use your expensive humans to take them. We have something we call Owly Writer, where it helps you craft the right message when you're in Composer to send it out there. And you can give Owly Writer a URL of something that you want on the internet that you care about, and it'll craft messages for you. And you can tone those messages based on the tone you want to send out in the market, from aggressive to very mellow to very
Yeah.
and so on, and help you with that. So all sorts. And of course, we're building right now a Copilot experience, so that there is a little AI helper to tell you what to do at any given moment of your journey
So is
with
that
Hootsuite.
your Copilot or integration with Microsoft's Copilot?
It is our Copilot. So
Yeah.
one of the
It's
really
getting
nice things
to be a
of
very muddy space with the Copilot, discussions.
For sure. This is very, very specific to social media and social media actions that you really need to take. So
Yeah.
a lot of so we if you think about AI, the space altogether, we're not an AI company, but we use AI kind of everywhere that we
Yeah.
can to enhance an experience. And with the acquisition of TalkWalker, we doubled our AI team. We have a pretty substantial AI team now that already, although we are connected to the big brand AI providers to kind of use generic models from them, we then have our team specializing into filtering those models and apply them into what makes sense for the social media space. So yeah, a lot of what we do is definitely influenced by AI, and we have so many ideas for the future.
Well, yeah, one idea that I would like to add into the mix, and maybe you already do this, is like the ability to identify AI bots in the feeds. I
Yes.
probably had that request a lot, I would imagine.
We're already kind of thinking around this space. The biggest concern we have as a vendor, but also as an individual, is that with so much text generated by AI these days across the world,
Crazy.
there is a point in the future where you just don't know what is real and what is not. And the ability for us to kind of cross-reference and give you some kind of degree, some kind of a score of reality, becomes kind of paramount. So we're kind of thinking that way.
Well, I got to mention that, like you over the years, you guys have seen some really interesting, use cases for your product. Do you have any interesting stories about customer success that,
Well, I've described a few
yeah,
in this podcast, but I'll let you know about another one, which is close to my heart because I think we all leave that and it wasn't fun. And this was during the pandemic. We One of our customers is Osner Health, a Louisiana kind of university healthcare system that has I think like 30,000 employees, 4,500 practitioners in 90 medical specialties or so.
yeah,
So the problem they had in the beginning of the pandemic is the problem we all had, which is misinformation. Nobody knew anything about this virus
yes,
or how to, and everybody came up with their own kind of medical advice, right? So they needed
right,
to find a way to monitor what was happening out there in the social media, what was misinformation and what was real, and to be able to quickly respond to misinformation with real factual data. Um,
yeah,
and at the time, they were a customer of Hootsuite and TalkWalker. Hootsuite and TalkWalker have been together for the past 7 years as partners, well integrated, and
yeah,
now we owe them. So they were able to use the listening capabilities of TalkWalker and then take actions in Hootsuite.
yeah,
The result of that was that their awareness as a brand within the space kind of increased by 129% year over year, which is incredible.
yeah.
And then the kind of overall media engagement was up there too, like hundreds, 100% points increase year over year. So that's a really nice story.
Yeah.
But there are other stories I can't talk about with names that definitely use listening capabilities to look at sentiment, to look at crisis, and really to
Well,
position their companies
yeah, I would imagine
well.
the airlines have kept you busy lately.
Yeah.
I would hope most of the airlines are using that service because I think at this point people are just like they're like I've spent 6 hours on customer support calls, so right now I'm just going to make a video about how awful the service is. I mean that's really where we're at.
As I said before, I think the worst part is, or the better part is that events happen at the speed of now, and with globalization and everything is happening with social media, like literally things are amplified over seconds. So a lot of businesses out there are really seriously considering their social media strategy going forward because they just cannot cope.
So you kind of hinted at some of the capabilities that you've got coming soon. Could you speak to a little bit of like what's next for Hootsuite? What should people expect to see soon?
Yeah, we literally put the first couple of milestones in place of taking that performance engine and changing the category altogether into becoming a brand that brings those insights and actions into wherever work happens.
Hmm.
So for us, the next couple of years will be to literally do that, bring social media insights, bring the action button wherever millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha are doing work. And in thinking of that, we also trying to adjust the way that we operate as a company and that we operate as a software because the younger generation that is entering the workspace right now is consuming software in a very different way.
Yeah.
So you've got to be quick. You've got to kind of bring that insight quickly and the action alongside and move into the next task and so on. So call it tiny little sound bites, a few ways of
Right.
work, but many of them through the day.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but I think micro learning is a really big trend now too. It's just like
Micro learning is huge. Yes.
Hootsuite's always, a really interesting piece of tech. I think, for somebody who's in the world of this. So it's been really exciting to get a chance to talk to you, and I really want to thank you so much for being on and sharing about Hootsuite. I think it's a really compelling piece of tech that people should really take a look at seriously if they want to, stay on top of their business.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me in your show. It was exciting, kind of get the opportunity to talk about the innovation that's coming as well as the capabilities and some of the challenges that our customers are experiencing today.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it.
Yeah, and keeping on top of all that is not easy. So, good
um,
luck to you on that front.
Look at my gray hair. It's happening
Yeah,
at
I'm
real
starting
time.
beard first, but yeah. Well, thank you so much again. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And if you could, give us a like, think about subscribing, share this with a friend, and I will see you in the next one.